Welcome to the Ethical Considerations of Starting a CAD Business, a presentation by Jarrett Bray. To start, I would like to provide you with a brief introduction that describes first, what CAD is, second, what does CAD firm or business do, and third, why am I starting one of my own? After we discuss these introduction points, we will then dive into some ethical considerations that will affect my decisions while I am founding the company as well as through the life of the business, because these ethical considerations must be implemented and maintained to the best of one's ability to manage a legal, successful, and reputable business. So first, what is CAD? CAD stands for Computer-Aided Drawing, Drafting, or Design. The D over time has changed and is now interchangeable, however, each have basically the same meaning. CAD is the process of designing an item from the general idea and creating a physical or digital model. A physical model would be representation of the object. You have probably seen examples of this in car commercials, where they show a clay car and an artist sculpting it. A digital model is more likely the norm, over the last decade, where a designer will create a 2D or 3D object via a specialized computer software package. Similar to sculpting, but much more precise, with unlimited resources due to the virtual environment. The final step is taking the model and creating a drawing of said item, with detailed information about how to produce said item in a production environment and on a larger scale. So what is the business that I am founding going to do? My company will be a contractual 2D and 3D modeling, rendering, and rapid prototyping service. Basically, what this means is I will be selling my services as a designer on a per-project basis. If a company needs assistance creating a product and do not have internal resources to do so, they can contact my company where I will provide them a bid for my services. Should they choose to accept, I then work with the company that is contracting me to create the item or items as a digital model, as well as for full production printouts, allowing them to produce the item when they need to. As an additional cost, I will be able to provide minor rapid prototyping, which is creating the item or items on a small scale to ensure that those items function to the required specifications. Lastly, why have I decided to do this? From a very young age, I have always felt an affinity for building things, whether it be from Legos to creating full-fledged robots in high school. This, coupled with enjoying video games, led me to a career of 2D and 3D CAD design, where I could couple my passion and creativity of building things with a video game-like interface of producing said products in the digital environment. To me, there is no greater feeling than coming up with an idea, creating that idea on the computer, then after having it machined, holding the finished item in your hand and having it worked exactly as intended. After having a taste of this with the robotics program I mentioned participating in high school, I decided to pursue an internship, which led me to a full-time position in the field. While working this position, I was frequently proposed with side projects for other companies not related to my current position. To prevent potentially legal and financial issues that could result from performing work under the table, I have decided to expand my passion and become an entrepreneur by starting my own company. Due to the fact that I will be designing products that will ultimately be used by other companies and could potentially wind up in the hands of consumers, there are several ethical considerations that must be followed to ensure a successful and proper decision process is followed. Due to CAD being a branch of mechanical engineering, I have decided to look into core values of other engineering organizations, where I discovered the National Society of Professional Engineers Code of 6 Ethical Practices, which I have chosen to adopt into my own core values. Ethical consideration number 1 is that health, safety, and the welfare of the public are the number one priority. In terms of my business, this ethical consideration is to protect the end user of any product, ensuring that as the designer, I must do my due diligence to provide the safest possible product to the customer. Because I am basically selling my designs, I have no way of knowing the final user, so any and all products require ample safety features that would be omitted in certain markets who have more lenient standards, such as China or Singapore. As the designer, if I were to create a product that resulted in injury to a customer or to cause damage to other equipment that would in turn cause harm to someone, I could legally and financially be held liable for said damages, which would destroy my company. Thus, corners will not be cut. Ethical consideration number 2. Services should only be performed in areas of your chosen expertise. Although I am trained in both 2D and 3D modeling, I have focused my efforts on industrial and product design. In terms of the two pictures on the slide, my company will initially focus on the image on the left, which is a computer model of a gearbox that has been sectioned such that you can see the inner mechanisms of the model. As the sole designer, this is the type of work I have focused on over the last 8 years, making it my expertise. The image on the right, however, appears to be a rendering of a commercial building. This, too, would fall into the CAD category, but due to my lack of experience outside of schooling, I would not be comfortable with producing building design because there are many codes and laws that must be followed when producing this type of design, and it would require its own specialist to prevent breaking our ethical consideration number 1, seen in the previous slide. Ethical consideration number 3. All statements to the public and customer must be objective and truthful. This may seem like common sense, however, many companies, in a bid to save as much money as possible, skirt the line of this ethical practice to save their brand's image. For example, no cigarette company is going to admit their product causes cancer. An example of this in a responsible nature is NASA and the tragic Challenger explosion. After the space shuttle was left on the launch site for a long period of time in cold weather, an O-ring did not perform as intended. This ultimately caused the rocket to explode during takeoff, killing the entire crew. After an in-depth investigation, NASA found that the design of the rocket consisted of several major concerns and did not have enough safety precautions built into it to ensure the safety of the shuttle's passengers. Because of this, NASA decided to redesign their shuttles, correcting these issues and better ensuring the safety of its passengers. NASA admitted its fault and its sincere regrets over this tragedy. Ethical consideration number 4. You must be faithful to your employer or client as long as no ethical issues are broken. This is something that is overlooked extremely easily in the engineering world, especially regarding contractual work, such as what I will be offering to my customers. Industrial espionage is the practice of using or selling ideas, information, or designs that are considered confidential and proprietary for a company and providing it to another. This is illegal, and yet it happens every day. Basically, it means that I cannot create a design for one company and sell it or any of its concept for that design to another company. It also means that I cannot take information from the company that is contracting me and provide it to another company, or use that information to create something for someone else. This also means that if I am arranging production of a product, I must be careful of where I am having that item produced. Because laws differ in different regions of the world, it is overly common for a company to send drawings to a foreign production facility to later find out that an exact copy of their product is being illegally sold or duplicated. Ethical consideration number 5. Avoid deceptive actions. Another self-explanatory consideration. that unfortunately is not always followed. Most recently, Volkswagen epitomized this with an unethical emissions scandal. Because Volkswagen was having difficulty producing cars that would pass emission testing in various regions of the US without increasing the costs of their vehicles. To combat this, they decided to program the vehicle's computer to be able to tell when an emissions test was being performed and to modify the vehicle's performance to pass the test. This is cheating because during normal operations, these vehicles would not pass these emission tests. This results in a huge scandal and has greatly tarnished Volkswagen's reputation, and it is blatantly deceptive action to maximize profit and at the expense of the environment. Lastly, we have ethical consideration number 6. Conduct oneself honorably, responsibly, ethically, and lawfully, as to bolster the reputation of the profession and your employer. This consideration is more of a catch-all, simply to ensure that as much is being done as possible to prevent damage to oneself, the customer, the client, and the company. Basically, do everything you can in an honest, responsible way for the good of everyone, regardless of if it is what is best for the company and its bottom line. Safety of everyone comes first. Be honest, be respectful, be responsible, and most of all, be ethical. To recap, each of the National Society of Professional Engineers ethical considerations that I will be using are as follows. 1. Ensure the health, safety, and the welfare of the public are the #1 priority. 2. Services should only be performed in areas of your chosen expertise. 3. All statements to the public and consumer must be objective and truthful. 4. You must be faithful to your employer or client as long as no ethical issues are broken. 5. Avoid deceptive actions. 6. Conduct oneself honorably, responsibly, ethically, and lawfully as to bolster the reputation of the profession. In conclusion, using the 6 ethical considerations discussed in this presentation, I will be able to protect myself, my clients, and our customers to the best of my ability, and will be prepared to make ethical decisions. Using these ethical considerations, I have decided that the best option for my business, as it is currently, will be to form an LLC, where I am the sole proprietor and have used ethical practices to create a business plan and formulate goals and objectives. I will be focusing strictly on 2D and 3D industrial product designs, with the intention to expand into architecture at a later date, when the company can afford to hire a residential and commercial drafting specialist.